If I had to evaluate the crypto ecosystem today from scratch, knowing what I know about Anthropic's mythos and what may be coming next, I would think about crypto risk differently. Today is Thursday, April 16th in New York, so comment what day and date you're watching from, subscribe, and comment John A.G. Best. Most people still think crypto risk is about price charts or whether Bitcoin goes up or down, but that's not the whole game anymore. The bigger danger may not be the chain itself. It may be everything wrapped around it. The apps, the logins, the browser extensions, the support desks, the admin panels, the recovery flows, the software layers ordinary people trust without thinking about them. Because when people hear AI risk to crypto, they jump to the movie version. They imagine some genius model cracking Bitcoin before lunch. I don't think that's the right frame. I think the nearer-term danger is less theatrical, more practical, and more dangerous because it hides in plain sight. It's not necessarily the vault door. It's the hallway, the badge scanner, the service desk, and the person on the phone saying, "Hey, I just need you to confirm one thing." So in this video, we're going to walk through the stress points, why some parts of crypto may hold up better, why other parts may be more exposed than people realize, and what this AI shift could mean for exchanges, wallets, apps, protocols, and users. Now, based on Anthropic's own recent materials, Mythos is getting attention because the model has shown the ability to find zero-day vulnerabilities across major operating systems and major web browsers, and in some cases turn those weaknesses into working exploits, even for teams without deep security backgrounds. Anthropic also says Mythos has already found thousands of high-severity vulnerabilities and launched Project Glasswing with industry partners to push those capabilities toward defense before they spread more broadly. And that matters because crypto does not live in a magical glass jar. It lives on phones, servers, extensions, exchanges, websites, signing tools, identity systems, and software dependencies users never see. Anthropic says some of the bugs Mythos found were 10 or 20 years old, with the oldest patched example stretching back roughly 3 decades. Old code people thought was safe can still surprise you. So what does that mean for cryptocurrency? I think it means the biggest danger in the next phase is not that decentralized networks suddenly vanish. It's that the centralized layers people rely on become more exposed and exposed faster. If AI can discover weaknesses better than humans did, and in some cases help turn them into usable attacks, then the time between we found a problem and someone is abusing the problem starts collapsing. Anthropic's write-up points directly to that mix of discovery, exploitation, and speed. And when that window gets tight, who sweats first? Not the person posting slogans online. The operator, the exchange, the wallet provider, the trading app, the bridge, the consumer platform with a giant pile of assets attached to one interface. That's where the blood pressure goes up, especially because broader zero-day trends already show attackers leaning harder into enterprise and security products. Google's threat intelligence work says exploited zero days and enterprise-focused technologies kept rising in the most recent annual review, which lines up with the idea that concentrated infrastructure is where attackers can get the biggest payoff. Now, I do want to be fair here. There is a reason the more established base layers can look sturdier. Bitcoin still benefits from being older, more decentralized in how rules are enforced, and harder to alter without broad consensus across validating nodes. Mythos may be powerful, but that does not automatically mean it rewrites a global network built around cryptography, distributed validation, and shared rules. But I also want to challenge the lazy comfort phrase that follows from that. Because people hear, the protocol is probably fine, and translate that into, therefore, I'm fine. No, that doesn't follow. Strong math does not protect weak operations. Shared network rules do not save a person who gives a recovery phrase to the wrong voice on the phone. A resilient base layer does not rescue a platform that hands the wrong actor admin permissions. There is a real difference between protocol resilience and platform resilience. But don't turn that distinction into a sleeping pill. Some of the issues associated with Mythos should make any crypto company sit up straight. Anthropic's public materials describe full remote code-style compromise paths, privilege escalation, and complex exploit chains across mainstream software. The broader concern in the crypto setting is obvious. You don't need to break the blockchain in some grand cinematic sense if you can break the software sitting between the user and the asset. Think about how most people actually use crypto. They're not compiling code from scratch and verifying every dependency line by line. They're opening an app, tapping a button, trusting a password reset flow, using a browser extension, approving a transaction on a phone, clicking a link from an email they should never have opened. That is the real battlefield. That is where convenience lives. And convenience, unfortunately, is where attackers eat. And the cruel part is this stuff doesn't always look dramatic while it's happening. It looks normal. A login prompt, A support ticket, an update, urgency, a little trust. Then the damage is already done quietly. There's another reason I think this matters more now than it did a short while ago. Speed. AI-driven workflows can shrink the journey from known bug to practical exploit. Google has been warning for years that faster discovery and patching shortens exploit lifespans, and its latest reviews still emphasize that attackers increasingly target software and enterprise layers that can open wider doors. If defenders needed a few leisurely weeks before, that assumption looks weaker by the day. And crypto companies are not exactly famous for moving slowly and carefully, right? A lot of them move fast because the market rewards shipping. Features first, integrations first, growth first. Security hygiene sometimes gets treated like the thing everybody says they care about, while engineers quietly try to stop the back end from catching fire. That's not every company. But it's enough of them to matter. Now layer AI on top of that, and the attack surface gets wider in a way people underestimate. Because it's not just code discovery, it's also impersonation, persuasion, scale. The FBI says Americans filed more than 180,000 cryptocurrency-related complaints in the latest reporting year, with losses above $11 billion, and it added that AI-related complaints cost Americans nearly $900 million as scammers used fake profiles, voice clones, and believable videos. Chainalysis separately says AI-enabled crypto scams were about 4.5 times more profitable than traditional scams, with impersonation tactics surging dramatically. So when people say the biggest attack vector in crypto is still social engineering, I don't think that's old news. I think it becomes even more true in an AI-heavy environment. Imagine the call. It sounds like your coworker, or your cousin, or the exchange rep, or the project moderator, or the wallet support team. The voice sounds normal. The timing feels right because it lands right after a real outage, a real market drop, or a real compliance check. And the attacker only needs one little mistake. One phrase, one code, one approval, one seed, one screenshot. That's it. So let me ask you something. What do you think gets hit first in an AI-accelerated crypto world, the chain or the humans standing in front of the chain? Because I know where my vote goes. And there is a fresh lesson here from the broader security environment too. Google says attackers are shifting toward third-party components, libraries, and enterprise technologies because those targets can scale across more than one product. That matters for crypto because the ecosystem is full of reused libraries, shared infrastructure, and software supply chains that reach far beyond one token or one exchange. If one common layer gets shaky, a lot of downstream products can wobble together. This is why I think retail-facing platforms deserve special attention. The websites, the mobile apps, the browser tools, the exchange dashboards, the copy trading interfaces, the places where normal people actually touch the system. Those are fixed targets, public targets, repeatable targets. They combine scale, predictability, and a very expensive prize at the end. And if you're a company sitting on a giant pool of customer assets, you are effectively walking around with a sign over your head that says, "Please inspect my mistakes very closely." Now, to be clear, this is not me saying every exchange is doomed or every wallet app is a disaster. That would be lazy too. The other side of the story is that AI is also becoming part of the defense stack. Anthropic says the same improvements that make Mythos stronger at exploiting vulnerabilities also make it stronger at finding and fixing them. The company is pushing that defensive angle through Project Glasswing, and its broader model releases have emphasized helping defenders find and patch open source flaws faster. So yes, this becomes an arms race, and the firms that take that seriously may actually come out stronger. If a platform shortens patch cycles, tightens update enforcement, reduces admin sprawl, hardens identity controls, limits privileged keys, and uses AI internally to test its own assumptions before attackers do, that platform has a much better chance of staying ahead. CISA's guidance on patches is basic for a reason. Patches and software updates exist to address security vulnerabilities, and delaying them leaves known openings sitting there like unlocked doors. This is where I think the next standard has to go. Shorter patch windows. More aggressive dependency hygiene, more auto-updating where it makes sense, less tolerance for legacy junk nobody wants to touch, more internal red teaming, more separation between support workflows and credential-sensitive actions, more skepticism around any process that depends on one key, one admin, one signer, or one sleepy approval chain. That's the boring stuff, by the way. That's the unsexy stuff, and that usually saves you. If you're successful, share your success story in the comments so others can stay motivated. Now, there is another angle here people don't talk about enough. Everyone loves saying open source is automatically safer because more eyes can inspect it. There's truth there. But AI complicates that story. More visibility can help defenders, yes. It can also help attackers move through widely used code faster. Closed source systems don't get a free pass either because Anthropic says Mythos has shown strong performance against software sitting deep inside mainstream computing environments. So whichever side of that old debate you prefer, the easy answer is gone, because it means the old shortcuts stop working. You can't just say, we're decentralized, and relax. You can't just say, we have two-factor, and relax. You can't just say, the code was audited, and relax. Those things matter, but the environment around them is changing. Even Mozilla's current security advisories still include high-impact memory safety fixes that could, with enough effort, allow arbitrary code execution, a reminder that heavily used software never graduates from needing constant attention. There is also a broader historical parallel here. Every time technology lowers the cost of attack, defense has to reorganize, not just improve a little, reorganize. Spam did that. Mobile phishing did that. Ransomware did that. AI-assisted cyber work looks like another one of those moments. TRM says crypto-related hacks in the prior year still ran into the low billions, while wider illicit activity remained substantial and revised estimates keep moving as investigators uncover more. That's why I think the phrase new class of attacks is directionally right, but incomplete. It's also a new class of pressure. Pressure on teams, pressure on release cycles, pressure on trust models, pressure on users. Pressure on the assumption that defenders will always have time to look at everything manually. They won't. And yet, strangely enough, I'm not purely bearish on what comes next. Because the same materials that make this feel alarming also point to something constructive. Bugs that would have sat quietly for years can get found sooner. Weak software can get hardened sooner. Security teams can get leverage they never had before. Even older systems that survived partly on luck may finally get dragged into the light. That is painful, yes. But it is also useful. So my base view is this. In the near term, AI probably threatens the crypto ecosystem most, where crypto stops being pure protocol and starts becoming people, products, interfaces, admin systems, middleware, and off-chain trust. That is the zone of danger. That is where I would focus. That is where boards, founders, engineers, and users should be paying much closer attention. The bigger chains may hold their shape better than the average person fears. The average platform may be more fragile than the average person realizes, and the average user is still one bad conversation away from disaster. That last point matters more than people want to admit. Because the industry loves to talk about decentralization, but the user experience often recentralizes risk in very convenient places. One app, one inbox, one recovery flow, one help desk, one browser session, one signer, one mistake. It doesn't take much. So where does this go next? I think stronger firms will start behaving like software security companies that happen to work in crypto, rather than crypto companies that treat security like an afterthought. I think patch discipline becomes a competitive advantage. I think identity and authorization become bigger differentiators. I think AI versus AI defense becomes normal. I think platforms that cannot explain their trust model clearly will get punished. And I think users are going to have to level up too, not just technically, mentally. Slower on urgency, harder to manipulate, less willing to trust inbound messages, less impressed by fake authority, less likely to hand over the crown jewels because somebody sounded professional. That is the world we're moving into. So no, I don't think the main takeaway here is AI kills crypto. That's too simplistic. I think the better takeaway is that AI exposes where crypto was never as trustless as advertised. It shines a bright flashlight on the human, company, and software layers that were doing far more of the real work than the slogan suggested. And once you see that, you can't really unsee it. One more question for you before we wrap up. Do you think the winners from here are the projects with the best narratives, or the ones with the hardest internal security discipline when nobody is watching? Because I suspect the answer is going to get obvious. That's how I see it. This is for education and perspective only. It is not personal financial advice. It is not a buy or sell call. And please do your own homework before you put real money anywhere near a market like this.